If you feel like you've been battling with hiring quality appointment setters over the last few months without wanting to break the bank, then this video is definitely going to help you. I used to run a white label call center for agency owners where we did all the calling for their clients for around 4 years, working with some of the biggest agencies in the space like Gym Launch, and I've hired hundreds of setters during that time. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I was able to hire A-player appointment setters for only $17.12 per hire. That's not per application. That's actually hired, onboarded inside of my company. And the biggest issue I see right now in the agency space is people using expensive recruitment agencies. They'll charge you anywhere from like $2,000 to $5,000 just for one setter. And if you have no idea what you're doing, I can see why the appeal is there and why people might want to do that. But after watching this video, you'll understand why you're getting completely ripped off by companies like this. And on the other side, agency owners try and do it themselves using platforms like Upwork, onlinejobs.ph, or whatever else. And look, like they're okay, these platforms, but the amount of time you're going to waste having to go through the applications, go through all the interviews, you're probably better off using one of these recruitment agencies at that point because the amount of time you're going to have to invest in getting that setter right. So what do we use instead? We use a very specific 4-step process. And honestly, you can use this system across any of the ad platforms. We've tested this across multiple platforms at this point, and it always works. But in this video, I'm going to show you the exact system we use using LinkedIn ads, and then you can copy the exact same methodology for whatever ad platform you prefer, whether it's Facebook ads or whatever you want to use. Because the key thing isn't the actual ad platform. It's what we do after the application that allows us to get our hiring cost down to just $17.12 per setter. So let's jump straight in. The first thing is the actual job creation. Let me share my screen and you can see exactly what I'm doing. So like I said, I'm gonna do this on LinkedIn. And the key thing here is that don't post like a normal job on LinkedIn. Like don't use the actual LinkedIn platform. I want you to use the actual LinkedIn jobs platform, not the regular LinkedIn, okay? So to find this, just log into LinkedIn on normal and then click post a job on the top right here. This will take you to your job feed essentially, right? I'm just gonna go to manage job posts up here so I can show you some past ones. And if I scroll down, you can see all the different jobs posts we made over the years, whatever. I'll just click a random one here. And now I'm going to talk you through the actual job posts we use to be able to get these setters. So the first thing is keep the job title super simple. You can see here, I've just wrote appointment setter. Don't do like appointment setter wizard or sales master or anything like that. Just put appointment setter. It's very simple. People understand exactly what it is as soon as you go through, right? So to actually go through the job description now. So the first thing I say throughout the whole job description is to apply to this job, please fill out the application form here, right? The problem is on LinkedIn is that there are so many people that won't even read the job post and they'll just click apply on LinkedIn. And obviously some people will say, well, that's a disqualifier right there. If they're not even willing to read my job post, then why should I hire them? And I do get that, but what you got to remember is that you don't run some successful investment bank or some big company like Google. You're just like a small agency. Even if you're doing $1 million a month, you're still quite a small agency. You're not some big player that everyone knows about. So a lot of people just aren't going to take the time to read it because you're not that special yet, right? And so you want to make sure you tell them this stuff here, but a lot of the time they just won't even read it. They won't even read the application properly. They'll just see appointment setter, they'll click apply, and they probably apply to hundreds of jobs every day. So don't disqualify people just because they don't actually do this. I used to do that and I used to miss out on so many applications because of it. So now the job post itself, I'm not going to read it word for word. You can read it on the screen. I'll also put it down below so you can get access to this if you want to. But basically, we very clearly lay out what the job is, right? So we explain what the agency does, what we'll be doing, what can they expect when they actually work for us, what's their kind of responsibilities, what are the requirements, right? The requirements are really, really important. Make sure you tell them about stable internet connection, stable electricity, good quality headset, 2 screens is a must, internet speed test, like give them this kind of stuff. And that way, then they know from the get-go whether it's even worth applying if they read the job post. If they don't read the job post and they still apply, we have a whole filtering system for this, which I'll explain next. But yeah, just be very simple. Just explain what it is. Make sure you explain what the USD per hour is. If you don't tell them how much they're going to earn, then when you get on the interview and you start discussing with them, they have these crazy expectations. Oh, I thought I was be making $20 an hour. It's like, why would you think that? So make sure just from the get-go, you tell them exactly how much money they're going to be making. I always do 5 USD per hour. That works very, very well. If you want to do a little bit more, obviously feel free. But I find that 5 USD is enough to get some good quality setters without having to break the bank. We obviously put down as well, like what their flexibility needs to be, what time zones they need to work, that kind of stuff. And then obviously we put the application form again. And then also we say, please apply through the application form. Again, 95% of people will not do this. They'll just apply on LinkedIn. It's annoying, but it is what it is. And I'll show you the system and how we actually get them to really use the application form. Even if they don't actually fill the application form in, they just apply on LinkedIn. We do put a couple of qualifications in the actual LinkedIn job post as well, just to make sure there's a little bit of friction there so we're not wasting our time sending emails to people that just aren't qualified in whatsoever. So we ask them, can you start immediately? What's your level of proficiency of English? Are you amenable to working during the weekends? I actually don't like this too much. Like this is like a fancy word, amenable. Like just be simple. Like this is what one of my team was obviously added this in, which is fine. But at the same time, like I would try to avoid, like I say big words. It's not a big word, but amenable is like Most people won't know what that means. So just be super simple. Don't try and sound fancy is what I'm trying to say. Don't try and come across like super professional. You obviously want to make sure there's a level of professionalism in the job post. If people think you're just some cowboy, they're never going to apply. They're never going to want to work with you. But try to avoid using like big words or words that don't really make sense. Just be super clear. Like, are you able to work during the weekends? I'd much rather have that, right? Do you have stable electricity and internet connection? How many years of sales experience do you have, right? Prefer qualifications. But these ones are like all must-haves, okay? So then what happens is, like you can see here, my job performance, I've had 186 applicants. I spent £90, right? So that's about $120, $110, something like that. And we've got 186 applicants, right? So these applicants aren't people that have filled this in. They're people that have just applied on LinkedIn, right? So if I go to view applicants here, it will show you all the applications you've received for that job post. In terms of the location, this specific one was the Philippines. However, there are tons of different locations that work really, really well. Philippines is obviously, it's a standard one. Most people go to the Philippines. If you're in the US and you want someone on the same time zone as you that can also speak Spanish, obviously Latin America is very, very good. I really like the Dominican Republic. Dominican Republic has always delivered such great appointment setters. Then obviously other places like Colombia, Mexico, them kind of places. Ultimately, they all have great people. There's no like one specific place that's really good. Just from my experience, I find Dominican Republic always performs really, really well. Some other places that work really well as well are South Africa. South Africa, they have a South African accent. The South African accent, it kind of sounds similar to the British accent to people in America. And so a lot of times it sounds like a professional accent. It doesn't sound like an Indian accent or a Pakistani accent. No offense to them guys, but obviously if you've got someone with a really heavy accent from a different area, then a lot of time it can put people off. One specific place I found worked really well was Ethiopia. The capital city of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, has also provided some great people. For some reason, they literally have American accents. I'm not too sure why. I think that could be because they watch a lot of American TV and stuff growing up. But yeah, people in Ethiopia, especially the capital city, they have some really great sounding people that sound like literally like they're from the US, which is really good. So yeah, so Philippines, Dominican Republic, South Africa, Ethiopia, all these kind of places are really great. Quick side note, if you don't want people speaking English, like for example, if you're in the French market or the German market, a lot of these countries had colonies in Africa and colonies in different places all over the world. For example, if you're French speaking, places like the Ivory Coast can be really, really good because they are French speaking. So use your imagination, do some Google searching, and I'm sure you'll be able to find some third world countries that actually do speak the language you're looking for. Once you set this up, you want to put a budget around $20 a day. You can do a little bit more if you want to, but I wouldn't really spend too much more than that because you won't actually get many more applications. The other key thing here is you want to make sure the job post isn't live for more than 2 days. I made a huge mistake before with LinkedIn ads where I had a job post set for like $20 a day, $25 a day, something like that. And what ended up happening is I left it on for a few weeks. I completely forgot about it. And in the end, I realized I spent like $500-$600 on this one job post, but we got no more applications after day 2. For some reason with LinkedIn job ads, they stop delivering, but it still keeps spending even after 2 days, which is really weird. I don't know why I do that. So make sure you put some sort of alert, some sort of reminder that after 2 days, turn the job post off. Otherwise, you're going to be in a situation where you're spending money and not getting any new applications. So once you set all this up, you can view the applicants here, and this will show you obviously all the applications you've had for that job post. So now, how do we actually get these 186 applicants to use the Airtable post? Because what you'll see is when you run this, maybe only like 5 of these guys actually filled out the Airtable application. And the reason why is because there's quite a lot of friction on the Airtable application, which is a good thing. You want to make sure you're collecting a bunch of information, which I'll go through with you in a second, right? So how do we get most of these guys to actually now fill out the Airtable application form? Well, what we do is I get one of my teams, so it can be a VA, whoever you want, right? What you want to do is you literally want to click on each of these people, you want to click more, and it will tell you their email address, right? So if you literally just go through more, their email address, more, their email address, right? Then what you want to do is you want to set up a Google Sheet that looks just like this, right? You want to put in the first name of the lead, you want to put in their email, and then just have a column called email sent and date email sent, right? So when you first do this, you'll literally just see it all in here like this, and these 2 rows will be empty, and these 2 columns will be completely empty. And now if you go to Make, or you go to Zapier, however you want to do it, right? We have a webhook here, right? Don't worry too much about it being a webhook and it sounds a bit technical, a bit scary. Honestly, you can do this without webhooks. It doesn't really matter. But basically, we have a webhook that triggers this whole scenario, right? And then what we do is we go into Google Sheets and we have a search module. In this module, all we're doing is basically saying, I want you to find every row in here, right, that has email sent as empty, right? So if I go back to the Make here, you'll see it says email sent, basic operator does not exist, right? I want you to find every single row. And obviously in the beginning, that's going to be every single row. Every lead, every entry in here will have a name and an email, but the email sent will be blank because you haven't sent any emails to them yet, right? So you want to get your team, like I said, to put all of it in here. And then when you run this, it's going to search the row. Then what you do is you have a send email module. So all you're doing is you're taking the email that you found on the search rows. Okay. So you literally go here, the email, it'll take that, right? It's then going to have a subject saying, congratulations, you've reached the next stage. Even though you haven't looked at the application, you haven't looked at anything they've done yet, but you want to tell them that they've reached the next stage, right? Then in this email, we say, hey, first name, we take that again from here. We have their first name here, right? takes that column, puts it in here. Congratulations, I'm excited to tell you that after reviewing your application, you've reached the next round of application process for our appointment setter role at Team Follow-Up. Please go ahead and fill out the form below to proceed to the next step. And we put in the Airtable link, right? Thanks, and then we just put our signature and blah, 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 right? So then what happens is I think we've now reviewed their application, and it's now worth them putting the time in to actually fill out the Airtable application. If you don't do this, then on the first round, they're not willing to fill out the application because it takes too much time, too much barrier to entry. But now they think that you've actually looked at their LinkedIn profile, you've looked at their initial application, you think that, oh, these guys are a good fit. Now they feel like the chance of them getting the job is way higher, and so they're way more likely to actually put the time in to fill out the Airtable application. But in reality, we haven't looked at anything yet. We just want them to fill out the application form. Then what we do is we have a quick Google Sheets module here, which is update a row, where basically it'll go into the sheet and it'll update this to say email sent yes and the date the email was sent. And that's the whole make automation. That's all of that done, right? Once you send that, now you're going to get way more application. Loads of people can fill out the application form, right? So what does the application form actually look like? Well, if I go to LinkedIn, this is what the application form looks like, okay? So it's basically appointment setter application. It will say something very similar to what we said on the job post. It will then just confirm the same stuff. So this is an hourly freelance contract position. Are you comfortable with that? What's your full name? What's your email address? What's your phone number? Where do you live? What kind of shifts were you looking for? So obviously, if you have a specific shift you want your setters to do, then you don't need to add this in. You can just tell them, hey, I want you to work 9 to 5 or 8 till 8 or whatever it is. With Team Follow-Up, we had people on an hourly basis and we had 24 hours a day. So we gave people the flexibility to decide what times of day they wanted to work, and we'd fit around them. But then ask them to provide a link to one of their voice recordings. The last thing you want to do is have a really good appointment setter on paper, and then you jump on an interview with them, and as soon as they open their mouth, you're like, this isn't going to work. Because you're just wasting your time. You've got to still got to be polite. You don't want to upset them. You've got to spend 15 minutes talking to them about nothing because you know you're not going to hire them, right? So make sure you get a voice recording from them from the get-go. The key thing here as well is you add this bit which says, please make sure you have any links accessible by anyone and the link doesn't have an expiry time. Obviously, what you don't want to do is get Google Drive links. You try and open it and it says, oh, you do not have permission to open this file, because it's just a waste of time going back and forth. And also at this point, when someone's filling out this application form, I am now testing to see what kind of attention to detail they have, because that's important when we're reading scripts, when they're following processes, when they're booking appointments. I want to make sure they do have a good attention to detail. So we add this bit in here. If they do add a link, which we don't have access to and we can't get access to for any reason, then we just disqualify the application, because clearly then just not reading anything properly. We then have a script speaking exercise. So we literally ask them to read parts of our script, and just we throw a few kind of like weird words in there, for example, like spinal decompression or whatever it is. I want to hear how they sound when they're saying the script. The key thing here as well is that if this person's got low energy or they just don't sound very happy or whatever it is, they're not going to get any better. This is like the best they're ever going to be. Right? Obviously, you might need to train them on how to say certain things in a certain way, but in terms of just like general energy on the call, you're never going to get them better than this, right? So if they sound depressed, they sound upset, they don't sound very good, then what are they going to sound like when they're doing 100 calls back to back, right? They're going to sound way worse. This is the equivalent of going on a first date with someone, right? So they're going to look their best, they're going to sound their best, they're going to be as friendly as they can be, they're going to be as polite as they can be, they're going to be putting the best version of themselves out there on that first date. And it's the same thing for application forms, interviews, that kind of stuff. So if the person sounds like they've got low energy or they just don't sound very good at all, then you can expect it's only going to get worse from that point on. Another thing I like to throw in there as well is a listening exercise. So it's not just about how they sound, but it's what can they actually understand? Do they understand slang, right? Can they understand someone with a different accent, for example, like a British accent? Can they understand me? So I've got a Google Drive link in here where I'm speaking quite fast. I'm using a little bit of slang, nothing too crazy, but just enough to see if they can understand it. And I give them a multiple choice. So what is a good response to this question that this person says in this voice recording, right? And they can select here A, B, or C. Then we've got another one here, another listening exercise. I then ask them to do an internet speed test and ask them to screenshot it and upload their file, just so I can see what their download and that upload is. When you actually do the interview with the person, make sure that you do it live with them again, because some people will lie about this. They'll screenshot some random thing from Google, whatever. So make sure when you're on the actual interview with them, get them to do a live speed test with you. And if for any reason they have bad internet or they can't get on the interview properly or whatever it is, completely disqualify them, because again, this is going to be the best version of themselves. If they haven't got good internet when you do the interview, then their internet's not going to get better. It's going to keep getting worse. The internet isn't going to get better. So make sure you do the speed test with them live on the call as well, just to make sure they do genuinely have really good internet. The final thing is an image of their setup. I like to make sure they've got 2 monitors, that they've got a clean desk, they've got a good workspace, right? If they're taking a picture of like their laptop sitting on their lap, like in their living room with a TV in the background that's on, like I don't want them working in that environment. That's a horrible environment, right? But if I see they've got a really clean desk, they've got like 2 monitors, they've got like a good keyboard, good mouse, they've got everything like set up, then it tells me they're willing to invest in their workspace, and therefore they're gonna do a better job. So again, I like them to attach a file, take a picture of it, attach a file there as well, and that gives you a good indicator of what kind of person they are in their workspace. So now you understand there's a bit of friction with this application. People aren't willing to do all this work from the very get-go. That's why having the email that gets sent out to them, which tells them, hey, you've passed the next round, now they're way more likely to actually fill this in, which is really, really good. I've literally had it where I've had like 5 to 10 applicants to 10x in my number of applicants just because of that email we send them saying, hey, you've gone through to the next round. So 100% you need to do that. And now the cool thing about Airtable is that once you've got these applications, if I go to here, you'll see that every application has its own record, and I can see all of the different things here. I can see the script speaking exercises, I can see the voice recordings, I can see an image of their desk, right? So I can click on here and I can see what their desk looks like. I'm like, oh, they've got 2 monitors, they've got a keyboard, this looks good, right? I like that. If I go somewhere like this, so that's obviously nowhere near as good, right? So they haven't got, it looks like they're using the keyboard, the touchpad and the keyboard of their laptop with like a kind of like an old monitor, which isn't the best, but at least they've got a desk. It's not the worst in the world. If I was to look at something like this one here, okay, that looks a lot better. But again, they haven't got a keyboard or a mouse. Like I want to have a keyboard and a mouse because it's way easier to actually maneuver on Go High Level using the scripts, all that kind of stuff, right? And so you can go through all these and you can see all the records. You can see everything. You can hear the voice recordings. Really good. It then tells you where they're located and it also gives you the times they want to work and even like the internet speed test, right? So I can click on here. And I can see that this has got, okay, so we've got a 34.69 download, upload of 19.27. That's fine. Usually 20 megs download and like 10 megs upload is the absolute minimum we want to be looking for. But again, you can go through all these. You can see the speaking exercises. I've put in the name here what the actual correct answer is. So I could put C is the correct answer, B is the correct answer. So I can see a couple of people. So I can see some people have put like A here. So one guy's put A, one guy's put C. So again, like I can look at that and be like, right, okay, is this guy made a silly mistake? Like what's going on here? So then from here, what we have is we have this column called want to send email for interview, right? If my team will go into here, they go through the whole application, they're happy with it, they'll then change this to be yes. When they change this to yes, it triggers a workflow in Go High Level to send them out an email saying, hey, congratulations, you've passed through to the next stage. We now want to invite you to an interview, and it'll give them a calendar link to booking an interview. And you can do this in Airtable. So if you go to automations, you'll see here we've got this Appointment Ninja interview offer. We also have the interview rejection and some other stuff as well, which I'll go through in a second. But the interview offer, all it is when a record matches, want to send email for interview is yes. So once that's changed to yes, right, that's the trigger. We run a script, and the script, all the script is basically a webhook, right? All we're doing is we're saying, hey, when this runs, I want you to send a webhook with the record ID into make, right? So I'll copy this down below so you can get access to all this stuff. When that runs, it triggers this. So this is the scenario we have set up for this. This is the webhook here. So every time this gets marked as a yes for interview, it will send a webhook. That webhook will then go into here. It will then find the record ID that we just sent it, right? It will find that record in Airtable. It will then create a contact in Go High Level. I recommend having a separate Go High Level sub account just for this, just for interviews, so it doesn't get confused with like your actual leads or anything like that. So it creates a contact inside the Go High Level. Then what we do is we update that contact to have a tag. So if I go into update a contact here, you'll see if I scroll down here, we've got AN interview email sent, right? AN stands for Appointment Ninja, just what we call our appointment setters. And so that will then add a tag into Go High Level. And then inside Go High Level, you have a workflow which has tag added as the trigger, and it will send out an email just inviting them to an interview, right? Don't worry about this other stuff at the bottom. This is like, if it's like a USA setter, we have a slightly different rules for that. But for non-USA setters, for third world countries, that's exactly what we do. We then send them an email saying, hey, congratulations, you are through to the next round. Please book an interview. And when someone does book an interview with you, make sure you build out a full reminder sequence for interviews. You should care about interview show rate just as much as you care about the rest of this funnel, right? A lot of agency owners, when they start doing this, they'll be like, well, if they don't show up to the interview, that's a red flag. They should know when it is, blah, blah. And yes, I do agree. But remember, your agency isn't a special snowflake. You're not some big Google corporation that people love that they want to work for. These setters are interviewing with tons of companies, and it's easy for them to forget who is who and when interviews actually are. So make it as easy as possible for them to show up. Make sure you sell them it's on Zoom. Make sure you give them the links. Make sure you send them the 24-hour reminder, 1 hour reminder. Send them all the reminders like normal, just to make sure people do show up. We tried this before, we just didn't send anything out, and our show rate was like 10%. It was really, really bad. And yes, again, it's like you could say that, well, if someone's not willing to show up for the interview, then they're probably not a good fit. But I disagree. Like I said, they're interviewing at so many different companies. They're just trying to get a job, right? So you want to make sure you remind them properly, make it easy for them to join, and treat it like any other no-show process. Quick side note, one tool we have started playing around with recently is something called Udly. So what Udly does is it allows you to build an AI role play where they can actually play around with the AI before they even jump on the interview with you. So you can give them like a basic script. You can pre-program an AI to be a customer of your niche. They can actually speak to that AI. They can go through the script. The AI will give them objections, all that kind of stuff. And you can start to see how they actually react to different scenarios, which is really, really powerful, especially before you invest any time in them and have to even jump on an interview with them, right? And so one quick thing to clarify with Udly is that, like, remember that the setter hasn't been trained yet. They haven't been through your objection handling processes. They haven't been through your script properly. This is really just a very raw way to see their base skill level before they even go through your training. And obviously, if they handle it well, they sound confident, they sound good, and they're even objection handling even before you train them, then you know that when you actually do train them, they're going to be so much better. So I'd recommend using Udemy as well as an extra, just to filter out any people that maybe aren't a good fit even before you jump on an interview with them. I'm not going to dive into like a full training now of Udemy, but if people do want that, just comment down below and I can make a future video where I go through exactly how we set Udemy up and how we get it to essentially interview people for us. So a couple of things I want to reiterate with this whole system. Rule 1 is the 48-hour window. Like I said, LinkedIn delivers around 90% of the applicants in the first 48 hours. After that, the performance completely dies. So make sure that you set a calendar reminder to pause the job post after a couple of days. Otherwise, what you're going to end up doing is just letting it run for weeks or months and burning cash without getting any new applications. Rule 2 is the duplicate strategy. Never restart the same job post on LinkedIn. Instead, duplicate it and post it as a brand new job post. Why? Because LinkedIn's algorithm will treat it as a fresh job post and push it to new audiences rather than going for the same people over and over again. And that way you're going to get way more applicants rather than trying to actually redo the same job post. It just won't work. The third thing is voice recordings are a non-negotiable. Always require a voice recording on the application form. Accent and clarity are the #1 disqualifiers. You can't train someone on their accent. Well, you can, but accent and energy are going to be the hardest thing to try and train someone on. So I'd rather just completely avoid someone if they've got a really heavy accent or if they've got low energy. I'd rather just get rid of them from the get-go, because if you try and train someone up, it's just going to take so much work and so much effort, and it's just not needed because there are plenty of setters out there who sound great and have really high energy. And so getting that voice recording on the application form will help save you so much time of having to go through different interviews with people that just aren't a good fit from the get-go. Rule number 4 is to set up photos of their work desk. Require a photo of their workspace. Obviously, the red flags are like if they've got like one laptop, one screen, they try and use the trackpad, no keyboard, no mouse. Even things like just a messy desk, right? It just tells you a little bit about how they treat themselves from a professional standpoint. So they're always good things to avoid. The green flags, obviously, they've got 2 monitors. They've got a really organized workspace, nice big desk, no TV in the background, like looks like a professional office setup. And even things like, have they got some good quality equipment? If they've got a really good laptop, really good keyboard, really good mouse, really good monitors, then it tells you they're willing to invest in their workspace. A players will always invest in their setup rather than try and cheap out on their equipment. Rule 5 is hourly rate transparency. Always mention the hourly rate in the job post. You don't want to be in a situation where you jump on an interview with someone and they're expecting like $20 an hour when you're actually paying 5, and it's just a waste of time from the beginning. So ask directly on the form, are you happy with X amount per hour? Yes or no? If they say no, then obviously you know it's the instant disqualification, it's fine. And like I was saying, this whole system will work on any ad platform you want. For example, if you were to do it on Facebook ads, you can just put a very simple creative, like an image, which just says appointment set as required. Again, make sure it looks professional. You don't have a really horrible creative because it will make it look like your company isn't professional. And if your company isn't professional, they're not going to want to work with you, right? So they're also judging you just as much as you're judging them. So make sure you have like a nice graphic, just says appointment set as required, whatever it is. And then from there, have a really simple opt-in, just like name, email, phone number, and maybe like 1 or 2 really basic qualification questions. Even use lead forms if you wanted to rather than an actual funnel. And then take all of them applications, put them into the Google Sheet, and then send them the email saying, hey, you got through to the next round. Please fill out this actual application form here. And then that application form is where they're going to put in all the information to make sure you can either disqualify or qualify them before the interview. And if you want me to email you the exact LinkedIn job post we use, the full Airtable base for storing applications, the make scenario blueprints that I was showing you for all the automated emails, then click the link below and I'll send it all to you for free. And if you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you on the next one.